here we are with Naven Dabria. Let me open this up. I got a Christmas present for you, bro.
What?
Yeah, so
You're
hold on.
lying.
One sec.
No, I feel terrible now because I don't have a Christmas present.
Nothing too crazy. But I was gonna give it to you. Like, I just toss them up to the boys, just because I have a bunch of them.
Yeah,
but
baby.
can't ever go wrong with a Yeti cup.
And it's all black.
Yeah,
Can't go wrong with all black either.
can't go wrong. It'll last forever. Got one right here.
Cheers. Thank you, brother.
Cheers. But yeah, I guess Naven here is a guy that I met. How long ago now? Like
About a year ago.
met at a little Fresa's mastermind dinner. I remember how we met. So I met Griffin right when I moved to Austin. He invited me to a dinner, like online business owners, let's connect and just hang out and like, get away from the computer screens. And we started doing those. And then one day he's like, yeah, I invited this guy from the gym. And I'm like, oh, cool. Guy from the gym. He's like, yeah, he did like door-to-door sales. I was like, okay, cool. Like I can speak that language. And then, then you pulled up and it's just like kept coming, kept talking, got closer, have a ton of like mutual connections, and you're doing cool stuff now. So dude, I guess in your life, like a lot's happened over the last like 2 years.
Lots.
Like a ton, right?
Lots. Yeah.
For those that might not know you, a lot of people that are listening to this, specifically those that come from like the Twitter side of things, you're not really over there, so they might not know who you are and the impact that you're having. But like, what's the elevator pitch on what you're up to now? And then we can kind of like build the story and see how you got there.
Yeah. Elevator pitch on what I'm up to now is I'm just like continuing to learn more. And so I'm always on a constant pursuit of like, how can I continue to learn, gather more skill sets, fail fast, so that, I have a clear path to where I want to go and how I want to win. And yeah, so like over the past year, I've gotten into high ticket sales in the online space. I've managed an offer, was a fractional sales manager on an offer, and then also came on as like almost like a sales type agency on another offer with a percentage and helped it grow. So a couple of different things, but yeah, I just dive into it. I'm like, I jump off the helicopter and then build the parachute as I'm falling.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. If you guys were at my event, he spoke on the stage. And there's a lot of people at the event, a lot of like cool guys doing cool things, but like there's a reason why on the sales specific panel, like I was like really careful about like who I wanted to go up there and based on what they've done.
Yeah, sales event.
And yeah, I would just say like with you, one of the things that stands out is like you just like exactly what you said, like you make the decision and then you go and give your best effort to figure it out. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. And like, I mean, you do pretty decent when it does, right? So like a lot of people are just afraid to fail fast, like they don't even give it the effort to find out if they could succeed.
100%.
So that applies to like all areas of life, but like even sales specifically, like you're always taking new like bets on yourself, trying new opportunities, all that, which is awesome.
I'd say especially sales.
Well, I mean, dude, so you, to kind of like let the people know what you have done, I know you got into door-to-door. Was that your start in sales?
Start in sales. So no sales experience prior. In fact, before I got into door-to-door, like I knew of sales, but I didn't really like know what it was, if that makes sense. Like I knew the word, but like, didn't really have context to it. And so, yeah, I was working at a gym called Collective. It was like, I was in the fitness space. It was my dream job. Like worked with NFL athletes, worked with CEOs, entrepreneurs. Cody Sanchez goes there, other big names. And so I, started as an intern, got the job there, eventually wanted to start my own gym. I was always into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so they had a book called Gym Launch in one of the owner's offices. And I was close to the owners. Started listening to Alex Hormozy. And that's like, was my first introduction into understanding what sales is and like the lever that you pull with sales. And so, yeah, something that I was actually struggling with that got me into sales was the pain point of not being able to sell. And so at the gym, a couple of different things like lack of lead flow because it's very expensive. It's a private gym, and there was also a member cap, right? So the majority of coaches there brought their clientele over. I was out as a fresh young lad that was 22 years old and like a decade younger than all of the other coaches, that just, built a relationship with the owners, like proved my worth. And now I had to sell people.
Yeah.
And so I was making so my rate was like $150 an hour. Majority of the coaches, sorry to out collective, charge between $300 to $450 an hour. And so, $200 to $350 an hour. And so I was like, yeah, like, I'm the budget option. Like, I'm the best option. I'm cheaper than every other coach here. And I'm pitching that to people that value their time far more than their money, it was just a learning experience. And so I wanted to learn sales and learn sales fast. And Alex Ramosi always talked about like gym sales and door to door. You just rep. And with anything I've tried, it's like, just get as much reps as possible, as quickly as possible, find the best guy that's doing it, learn from them and work harder than them. And you get the result. And so, that's what I did in the gym space. That's how I landed that role. And so I was like, let me do that in the sales space. So met a guy named Nico, shout out Nico Van Slyke. And he's still doing and was doing very well then. And we have very similar personalities. He was like, hey, like, dude, you should try this. And so, a couple of things happened, like personal things. I could talk about it if you want, but basically I took a huge risk, like took out like $2,500 on a credit card. I had $1,500 in my bank account just to be able to sell my first week. And then, I like generated $15K in commissions week 1. I took home 13 because of holdback and stuff door to door. I like never even had 5 figures in my bank account to getting 13K in commission 1 week. And then from there, my life has entirely changed.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's, we can dive into like the more sales specific stuff for sure. But like what I was mentioning about how you, like the way that you stand out in my eyes versus like a lot of other people. I remember when I like first met you, I couldn't remember if this is what like Griffin had told me about, like this guy that was going to come.
Yeah.
But he was like, that the fact that you were like the youngest dude by far in this gym, that's like this, like, high level, everyone's older, like you got yourself into a position that like on paper is very difficult to get into. And I've seen, like, since I've known you, I've seen you do that like multiple times. Even recently, like we could get into this further and further, but like, bro, just give me a conversation, like I'll land it. That's what you said. And I was like, all right, like, cool, I'm happy to vouch. And then I like made a connection, and then next thing you know, it's like opportunity is there,
Yeah, I think that is sales ultimately. Like when I'm posting a role and you repost it, right, and I get people in my DM or whatever, and they're asking for the role, like their ability to influence my behavior and wanting to hire them is sales. And so also, like, I think it's a good reflection that if you're a closer and you're looking for a job and you haven't landed one yet, you're the problem. I'm sorry. And it's a hard thing to swallow, but like something you're doing or not doing well enough is causing you to not get hired. And so for me, like before I even knew what sales was, like everything that like I've gotten the opportunity to experience in life has been sales. Like my first mentor, who like introduced me to like what owners, like business owners, and like what owning your own business can do. He loaned me money for my first car. He loaned me like $5K, and I bought a $3,000 4Runner for my grandpa. But like that was in a relationship, and I made that ask, and that ask was a sale. But it's like, I think it's just like, it's a couple of different things. I think personality is huge. I think that I don't know if you experienced this, but like within the first like 30 seconds to 60 seconds of meeting somebody, you can very much read like how they move, how they operate, and the standard that they hold for themselves. Like I was in a coffee shop in New Orleans recently, and interviewing some sales reps. And then I had a guy like after my call say, "Hey, like, are you hiring for a sales role?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, like I'm getting out of my current role. I'm kind of looking for a new one. Like, can you send me more information, or is there a place I could send you some information on me?" And I was like, yeah, here's my email, right? Never looked at it. Why? Because like I already know. And so it's like, it's also like how you show up. And I don't know if I think everything's trainable. Like you can, like charisma is just a subset of smaller traits. Smiling when you talk, speaking with volume, remembering their names, making them like laugh, and having it be an enjoyable interaction. And I think all of those can be learned. But yeah, that is something. Even like when I was a server, same thing as like I got a serving job, no serving experience, but it just like pitched pitch to the important
Yeah.
people, you know?
I mean, everything, like all these big steps that you've taken, like, yeah, there's like maybe it was difficult to get there. Like maybe there was someone who on paper is more qualified or should be doing this versus you. But it's like all these things, if you're actually looking at them, it's like none of them are really none of them are like rocket science. It's not like you're going and like applying for a job that takes like actual like 8 years of school and a certain degree and all this stuff. Like it's all about your ability to like want to do it, you know, like sales, serving, like serving people.
You know what I think it is actually? I think it's, now that I'm like reflecting on all of these moments, I think it just comes down to conviction. I think it comes down to being like, I know if you give me a rung on the ladder, I will climb to the top. And I do. Like, I have no doubt, like whatever I put my mind to and put my energy towards, if the opportunity vehicle is like worth it to me, then I'll climb up the ladder and do it. And yeah, I think that's the main thing that lacks. Like that dude in the coffee shop didn't have conviction that he was a savage, and he's not, right? And so I think that comes from like continually doing what you say you're going to do, and showing up and putting in the effort and the work and getting better. But yeah, so now that I think of it, I think it comes down to conviction. And I think that's the ultimate way to influence in a sales conversation anyways, is conviction.
Like conviction can show itself in like many, many, many different types of forms. Like I would imagine the way that like you and I are both in the same field, but the way that we do things is probably different, but we're both good at what we do, you know?
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, like, before you got into like sales or any kind of business where you were interacting with people, like, would you say you were like a naturally persuasive person? Like, would you usually be able to get what you want? Like, it's like, mom, can I go like spend the night with the boys? Like, can I go to this birthday party? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'd say I've always been a little bit of a jokester. But I'm actually relatively introverted, and I grew up very shy, very, very shy. And so I didn't really like talking to new people. And so what got me out of that was the service industry, to be honest. So like I worked in the service industry for like 4 years, from 18 to 22. And so, I mean, yeah, that got me better at like, because again, like if you're a server, your pay is like directly correlated to your performance. Like you're getting, $3.12 to cover your taxes, and then you're getting tip, right? And so my ability to, interact with different people, make sure that they're having an enjoyable experience, make sure when I'm talking to, the 60-year-old white couple from Covington, which is a richer area of Louisiana, I'm like, hey, like, how are y'all doing? Are you enjoying your martini? Awesome. Yeah, get you another old fashioned. Beautiful. Right. Versus like, like 6, 20-year-old girls celebrating a birthday party. I'm like, what's good, baby? What we celebrating? So it's like, it varies. And like, I learned those things just through reps. Cause like I sucked. I was quiet. I was reserved. And then eventually you start to pick up patterns and we're like, oh, if I do this or approach the situation this way, I make more money and they have a better experience, and that's why I get paid more,
Yeah. I think that's interesting. You said you used to be like a really, really big introvert, and I was the same way. If someone asks you that question now, like, are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Like, what's your answer now?
I don't know if it's truly black and white. I'd say I'd lean more extroverted. Cause like, it's funny. I've always I had no problem like public speaking and stuff like that. But when it came to like social situations, like recess with a bunch of people or like parties and stuff like that, I've always kind of been reserved. I'd say if I had to label myself one, I'd say extroverted, just because I am like more apt to speak to people now. But also like, I don't think labeling myself an introvert in situations where I should be extroverted is beneficial. I think like it's never black and white. It's like to what degree. And so, yeah.
I mean, I came to a point where it's like, if I let this label of like being an introvert control like my actions and what I do go for and what I don't, then I'm going to like limit myself in life. But like, did you ever come to that like inflection point where you're like, I gotta, in order to get certain things that I want, like I need to do what's required. And sometimes I need to be more outspoken. Like, did you have that?
Yeah. I don't know if I can't remember like a specific moment per se. I think, I had a childhood friend named Jackson that drug me out of my shell. We were very competitive in sports and in school and pretty much every aspect. And so like he kind of like got me to learn and like approach different social groups and like, be more verbal about what I want and like go after it. And so, yeah, I think like it was early though. And then I think, I don't know, I think it's just learned behavior. Like one of my favorite quotes is, I think it's from Alex Hormozy. I don't know if he got it from somewhere, but intelligence is just rate of learning. And so like how many times do you not get the outcome that you want from a certain stimuli until you change your behavior to get it? And so like even like with talking to girls, right? Like how many times do you realize if you never approach a girl, you don't get her number, right? And so then you start approaching. And then how many times do you realize that when you approach timid and soft, she probably looks at you like a little beta male and you don't get anything, right? Versus like coming in confident. And so I think it's just like the same thing with sales, with opportunity vehicles is like, if you're not getting the result you want, like how are you changing the stimulus? And so I think when it comes down to introverted, extroverted, it's just, I mean, in the business space and sales and everything, it's more beneficial to know how to talk to more people than not.
Yeah, and I think it's still good. Like, not to say you want to come in and just be the one that's talking the most, talking over everybody, like being like when people hear the word extrovert, they usually think like, oh, this person doesn't know how to listen. They talk a lot. They're annoying. But, there's, I guess, layers to, or it's a spectrum similar to being an introvert. You could be the dude who like doesn't know how to talk to people or someone who just prefers to be more chill,
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and too, like the introvert extrovert scale is so black and white. Like there are extroverts that just talk to talk and don't listen and have zero emotional or social awareness skills. And so like, yeah, they're extroverts, but like, is it serving themselves or anybody else? No.
Yeah.
Right? Like you ever like have somebody just like walk up to you and like 5 seconds later, like they're trauma dumping on you, like, and you're like, what is going on? And so I think it's dependent. Like I like in conversations, especially when I'm meeting new people, to just learn as much as I can about them. Because people love talking about themselves. And so like, even in conversations, like when I'm meeting somebody new, I want to ask and hear about like what's going on in your life. Like, hey, like give me some highlights from this past year. Like what has been special for you? And tell me about it. Cause like when you're the only one talking, you can't really receive much. And I think like in any conversation, your ability to listen directly is correlated with your ability to influence the conversation as well.
When you sell, do you use a lot of those same principles? Like pretty much the same when you're selling versus just like establishing a new connection?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing, honestly. Like finding a mentor, finding friends, networking is like, people may not like to hear this, but like in general, everything is transactional, right? Even the relationship between a father and a son, or like there's always some transaction, right? And so, yeah, I think like, obviously I don't want to like an introduction or meeting a girl is like a sales call, right?
Yeah.
And like, but even sales calls, like it's dependent on like what you're selling and who you're selling it to. What is the avatar? How is that person's energy when I get on the call? And so it's not as black and white, but yeah, I'd say like I ask questions. I want to understand their situation, their perspective, what they're looking for, if I could help them. And then we go along with the conversation.
How did you find your mentor?
Well, I don't know, like which one I don't have like one set mentor, but in general, like how do I find mentors in general?
I've had people that like I just through maybe a job or something like that, like I look up to them and they help me like, advance, but I've never had anyone where I was like, yeah, this guy's my mentor. So like, I mean, you mentioned it a couple of times already, but I'm curious, like, especially for people listening, they might be younger, they might be looking for that. Like, how did you go about finding any of your mentors?
Yeah, I think that mentors are attracted, not found. And so, like, you can't, how is it? Like sales, I love this analogy, although I probably should find a better one, but like good sales isn't rape, it's seduction, right? And so same thing with like finding a mentor is like in general, mentor, like if you're not paying them or else it'd be a service or coaching, right? And so they're helping you for free. And so in order to do that, they need to want to. And so like my first mentor, it was actually from wrestling. So I got into like freshman year, I got into high school, my homeroom teacher or whatever was the wrestling coach and he wanted me to wrestle. And I was like, nah, that's gay. I'm not doing that. And then yeah, I don't know if it's gonna get me canceled. You can beat me. Anyways, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And then asked me again. Finally decided to do it. And then his name's Timmy Kuvion. He he actually lived in my neighborhood. I didn't know this, but my neighborhood was like low to middle class, normal houses. And they had this one huge mansion with like solar panels on the roof. And this is like, like, what is it, like 10 years ago. So like solar panels weren't hot. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Anyways. And yeah, I met him through wrestling, and he just I started like summer of my sophomore year because they like gave you an option to, instead of wearing the singlet, like the one piece, you can wear shorts and a shirt. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then yeah, like he just saw like my work ethic. So like I came in, I had done no combat sports. I'd like ran cross country. I was like 95 pounds. The lowest weight class was 106, and it's a combat sport, so people would cut down. And so the people I was wrestling at 106 were probably walking around at like 115. And so he just saw me like come in skinny, and I just found the best guy near my weight and got my ass whooped every single day. We just get destroyed over and over, and it got me good quickly, right? And so I think that's also a lesson I learned, is like the faster you fail, the faster you learn, the faster you improve, and you're the guy. And so not only was I facing the best guy and getting shit on, but I was also learning everything he was doing. And so like within a year, I was wrestling 106. I started hitting the gym heavy, and I weighed like, 115, 120. And I was whooping, I was 106, and then I was whooping the 113, I was whooping the 120, and I was whooping the 126 starters. And so it was the progression, because like, again, only a year experience, but like the amount of work and effort, like I became obsessive. I was training, I was staying overtime, I was watching YouTube videos on my own time on techniques and stuff. And so, yeah, I think that attracted him to me, because he saw a potential work ethic, consistency, and like actual tangible results of me whooping people. And then from there, like that drew him in, and like he started, helping me cut weight and do all the things. And then, yeah, it just became like a mentorship type relationship.
I could see, like I told you, I had people that had like a little bit of influence over like what I would imagine could happen in my future and stuff like that. Like I had one guy that like really put me on to like real estate. And I hadn't, like, at the time I wasn't like going into anything like that, but just like opening my eyes to what's possible.
Yeah.
And I was curious, like what kind of effect, a mentor had on you.
So huge. Yeah. I think it like the hardest beliefs to challenge are the ones we never think to question. Right. So like for the longest time, my goal was like, oh, if I could just make 100K a year, like my family's straight, I'm rich, like, and you don't really know until, you make it and you realize that, like, not to say if you make 100K a year, like, but in general, of like my vision for my life, there was ignorance that to pay down. And so that, like, in general, the only thing keeping you from the people that you look up to is the amount of ignorance that you have around skill sets, around business, around whatever the goal may be. And so for me, it just like helps you pay down the ignorance debt faster. And so like I lived in this like middle to low income house, couldn't afford a vehicle. This dude, was making, eight figures a year in his business. Right. And so like the belief of like, oh, like this is a human just like me, and it's possible. Right. And this is the lifestyle he lives, but also like this is how he operates, and this is how he treats his time, and this is how he speaks to individuals, and these are the traits that he values. Right. And this is how he speaks about himself and the world, and this is his outlook and his perspective. And so that drastically differed from what I grew up and was raised to learn, or like what how my grandparents speak about money and speak about, oh, like this neighborhood's a ritzy neighborhood. Right. And so like it's just different. And so I think like you're just getting exposed to perspectives that you don't really get. Like when I moved to Collective, or when I moved to Austin for Collective, they were charging like $400 a month at the time. And like my outlook on that was like, oh, like, I mean, I'd love to work there, but I would never pay that much for a gym membership. Right. Versus, and then like, as I'm getting to know people, I'm like, oh, like this, like, number one, like expensive is relative. Right. And number two, it's like when you're just trading your money for some sort of other value, time. Like people value their fitness. People value having XYZ amenities all in one place to make it more convenient for them. People value the network that they're accessing through the gym. And so it's not just like, oh, I pay this to get this, and like that's overpriced. It's like, oh, like so like just perspective, small things like that,
It's all perspective, bro. Like everything in life is perspective. And then once you can think once you can think about perspectives other than your own and then see them as like, even if you might not see eye to eye, you see them as just as valid because there's inputs that got somebody to believe that wholeheartedly, then you can kind of like, I don't know, navigate situations better. And I mean, you're I guess in what you've been doing, like since I've known you, you started agency stuff. You started like not started, but got into like the remote sales stuff, did some management, like done a handful of different things. And the whole idea of just like failing, like not trying to fail, but like, and not expecting it either, but like not being afraid of it.
Yeah.
And then having those perspectives as you push through and like, maybe this doesn't work out, but then you push here and then this does. It's like, I mean, that's all the most successful guys I know that are kind of like in our age range. Like, I feel like they understand that concept of like perspectives, really.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about that too. So like going back to when you and I first met, you had like done really well in door to door. I think you said you had a 50K month, right? So like people watching this, most of them probably have not made $50,000 in a single month before. Like that's definitely like a metric you can tout a little bit.
Yeah.
Just to like show like, okay, I'm at least halfway decent at what I do.
Yeah. 100%.
But you went in the agency direction, and what I want to highlight on this, going back to the idea of that you're just not afraid to like put your all into something, is I remember we were going to these dinners and you're like, yeah, like I'm running Facebook ads, like I got sales calls, we close a client, and you were just like putting your foot on the gas, like putting your back against the wall, like running a ton of ads, and ultimately like you were maxing out some like Amex, like going crazy with it, right?
Yeah. I'm very, 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 very risk tolerant.
Yeah. So like, dude, 95% of people that I know, probably more, would not have committed that hard to that. And not saying like it was a bad decision. Like if it would have worked out, like you could be doing really, really well with that agency now. Now you're just doing something different.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, what's going through your mind when you're trying to start this new business? Obviously you're a guy that has like bills and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, why are you so risk tolerant?
Assessing risk, it's like, it's not as black and white as like, is this risky or is this not? It's also what time horizon am I considering this decision on, right? I think you can measure a man's wisdom by the time horizons in which he thinks in. And so like most people think in very short time horizons, meaning like most people only think about what's going to bring them short-term satisfaction tonight or tomorrow or next week, right? And there are people that think a couple of months ahead, a couple of years ahead. And I think like the wisest people think in decades, and like the even wiser people think in levels of centuries or eternity, and like what will serve the people that are here then. And so like when I think about risk, right? Like I've always just full sense it, because like what do I have to lose? So the perspective I'm like is like, if my current reality isn't what I want, then like any risk that I take isn't really that much of a risk, because I'm not where I want to be anyways. And so I don't really have that much to lose. Like if I play out worst case scenario, like what? I run out of money, and then what? Like I have friends, I have family, like I'll have a roof over my head, I'll have a bed, and I will be able to make money and get back on my feet. And so like with that being said, what's there to lose? And so, I mean, yeah, just very early on, like even getting like my server roles, like I drove 45 minutes to the restaurant my buddy worked at and was like, hey, like, can I just speak to the general manager? And then I was just like, hey, like, I'll start wherever you want, but like, I'm a savage. Like, just let me serve tables. I'll be the best. I promise. Yeah. Just give me a shot. Right. And like with conviction behind it, get the job. And I it's funny, quick, like little side story. First table I ever served, bro. I was so afraid to like hold the tray of drinks, and like I get this like bougie 8-top table, but I was like, and they were like, "Are you sure you want this?" I'm like, "Yeah, like I got it. Like I'm gonna kill it, right?" And a bunch of red wine on this tray, and then this girl in a white dress, this Karen, son. And so I go to play somebody else's drink, and the thing starts toppling, and I overcompensate, bro. Red wine, straight on top of this lady's head, all over her white dress. Pissed, livid. And so, long story short, they were not happy. And I got sent to the kitchen for like 3 months, right? And just labored and enslaved in the kitchen and was on cigarette breaks until I got back to the front of house. But yeah, like I think it's just like, but I didn't get fired. And like they moved me back to front of house because they saw my worth. They saw how I worked. They saw how I showed up. And so, yeah, like just multiple risks. Like me getting into sales was a huge risk for me. I finally, after working for free for like 8 months at this gym, got a paid position, right? Like any coach's dream position, with how much you got paid per hour, like $150 per hour. I used to make like $150 to $200 on a great shift as a server, you know? And so like I've literally consolidated 6-7 hour shifts to 1 hour unit of time. But then, you know, having trouble getting clients, right? And so at the time I figured out, I found out my girlfriend was pregnant. I had like $1,500 in my bank account. We were living in like a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, super South Austin, kind of in the hood, which I'm from New Orleans. So like New Orleans hood and Austin hood are very different, but for Austin, you know, kind of hood. And yeah, like, you know, I was thinking like, you know, I don't want my daughter growing up in like this crappy neighborhood. Like I would love for my daughter to grow up in a house. And like, you know, my girlfriend at the time drove like a piece of shit vehicle. I had like a '05 F-150 with like 297,000 miles on it. Like it was cooked, bro. And so in order to start the sales position, I did my training, but in order to start myself, I needed an iPad, like a magic keyboard so I could type up, you know, stuff in the house. I needed a vehicle because my vehicle wasn't going to work, and we sign hunted for alarms. And then I needed an Airbnb at the place that we were working because it was a blitz in Dallas. So we go to Dallas, work for a week, and my truck was not going to make it back and forth. And then there were like other costs involved as well. And so again, $1,500 in my bank account. But like I knew if trajectory stayed the same at the gym, I could eventually make more money, but the rate in which I'd learn and scale just with the position wasn't super high leverage. I also was listening to more of Alex Hormozy stuff, and I knew like directly trading my time for money wasn't the play anyways. And so, yeah, I mean, I saw the Instagram of the sales org, and it was like guys making $5K in a week, $7K in a week, $10K in a week. And like part of my head is like, there's no way this is real. Like this is insane, right? But the other part is like, no, like they're doing it. Like I met the guy leading the organization, and like his, you know, he drives a nice car, like lives in a nice house. It's real. And so, yeah, I just decided like, okay, I have two choices. Number one, like if you consider it the least risk, right? Like, oh, like keep staying at the gym, keep trying to get more clients, but like know that I won't be making 5, 7, 10K a week anytime soon. Or like just go all in. And if these other people can do it, I can do it too. Right. And so like, although there's no guarantee that I would, right? Even if I went out and failed, like the only guarantee is that if I didn't change anything, nothing changed. And so if you measure risk, like one has a 0% chance of getting you where you want to be. The other, even if it's small, has a chance of getting there. And so that's how I measure it. And then, yeah, like I put it all on a credit card, got a credit card, $2,500, got the rental car, got the Airbnb, got all the things, got the iPad. And then made more money I ever had in my bank account, changed my life forever. And so in general, like that's how I approach situations. The biggest exponential growth that I've had, the moments, have always been at the point where my back was against the wall and I had no other choice but to win. And I have enough conviction in myself that when put in that position, I will.
That's the idea that you were talking about with failure. It's like, bro, I don't have any other choice. Like if this doesn't work, I'm still in the same position that I don't want to be. Yeah. So what am I going to do? Not try? Like, yeah. I was thinking about that earlier. I was on a run and I was like, thinking example, like president of the United States, like a kid grows up and let's say there's two kids. One is like, I want to be, and I think I can be the president of the United States. Yep. The other says, no way. Like I would never be the president. Like I could not be the president. Yeah. And like, you know, the end result of being the president or not is like drastically different, but like that early decision that you believe you can or can't, like literally can put you in two different places. And so you've done that like multiple times. It's like you could have been like I could keep serving tables, or like I could keep working at the gym, but it's like the sales thing, like, oh, these guys are making money. Like it could work. And for that reason, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Which, that's one of the things that I noticed like about you, like knowing you for a while now. It's like, you're not afraid to take the risk. You're not afraid to like go all in. And then also you seem to have like, in certain interactions, I feel like you have a really good like hit rate on the risk, like the jumps that you take, like working into like new partnerships, working with different people, different sales jobs. And it probably comes back to conviction, but all that being said, like, okay, so you got into door to door, did well. I was in door to door and I was doing well as well. And then I found myself kind of seeing like the online stuff is like the girl in the red dress. It's like, this is good. I'm making good money, but I'm driving a lot. I'm outside a lot. It could be better.
Yeah.
What like really drove you to get out of door to door and pursue at first the agency, but then like online stuff?
Every jump that I've made has been because I think there's a higher leverage opportunity to go into. And so, in door to door, like I learned more about marketing, right? And so Alex Ramosi, $100 million leads, it's like, 4 boxes of different marketing. And the lowest leverage one is one-to-one cold audience, right? It's the literal lowest leverage you could do. And that's what I was doing in door to door, right?
Yeah.
The other thing was scalability, right? And so like in order to make more money, I had to recruit, hire, train, manage more salespeople, which like I've recruited, hired, trained in the door-to-door space, like over 25 sales reps, but like turnover in the role is heavy. Why? Because it's hard. It's super hard. Like the ability to go from a Karen screaming at you to get off her lawn or she's going to call the cops to like her inside whipping up dinner, signing a 5-year contract and then giving you a plate is a hard skill to like kind of like figure out. And luckily, like I just, the serving experience and my natural personality like helped me do that, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And so due to that, like, and just like the way in which things were moving as far as like, like I saw great growth and like I learned, but once I figured I like really had the skill set of sales down, and hiring and recruiting and managing, I was like, I feel like there's a higher leverage opportunity vehicle to put this on. And so, yeah, and also I wanted to learn a new skill set, which was marketing. So that's why I went and attempted a start at a marketing agency, which did not work out. Well, it all works out,
Bro,
but
I mean, doing what you've done now, like you've done a handful of things since then, like you've definitely taken things that you've learned, things that did work, didn't work, and used it to get success doing what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I tried everything, bro. Like I tried it all, and I've talked about it a lot before. Like every online business model, like I've tried it.
Yeah.
They all work. I just couldn't make them work at the time.
Yeah.
But like I wouldn't be doing what I am now. Like would I have not tried to drop ship like rubber pins in 2017?
Yeah.
Like
100%.
like stupid stuff like that, right? But yeah, I wanted to like pivot a little bit to kind of talking more about being in Austin. I know you have family. Is most of your family in New Orleans?
All of my family's in New
Okay.
Orleans. Yeah.
So coming to Austin, the opportunity that you saw like moving to a city like this, and then more specifically like surrounding yourself with guys that are kind of in the same arena as you. So if you guys aren't familiar, we are recording this in the podcast studio in the Compound.
ATX, baby.
The Compound ATX. You can find them on Instagram. It's 6 guys that are all kind of doing different things that all fall under the umbrella of not having like a 9-to-5 job and making a lot of money on the internet.
Yeah.
So
Internet money.
Talk a little bit about just like surrounding yourself with like-minded people, actually living with these people, and then making that commitment to like plant roots in Austin, even though it's not like where your family is or anything.
People love to hear, and I love to hear practical steps. Like, oh, I need to do X, Y, Z thing, and then I'll acquire the thing. But it's not that black and white. I think that you attract who you are. And so like, just like the guy in the coffee shop that asked me for the job or whatever, or for an opportunity, like that was an interaction that could have ended up with us being friends and him coming onto a company, but it didn't. Why? Because he wasn't there yet, right? And so like, I think that, number one, I think that the 5 people that you listen to and are around the most have the most correlated behaviors with your own. And so like, if you look at the 5 people that you speak to whether that's your parent, your mom, dad, sister, brother, friend group, they likely make around the like similar amounts of income, have similar tendencies, similar, like there was a period in my life, all my friends were stoners. I was a stoner. All my friends were brokies. I was a brokey, right? And so you have to set yourself apart. And so in college, I didn't have anybody that wanted the same things or had the same goals as I did. And so instead of that, I would just listen to people that do, right? And so at the time, it was just like, I wanted to be the best coach in the world. So I just listened to tons and tons and tons of like Jeff Nippard, right? And learned everything I could. And I would just like, instead of going out on the weekends, sit inside and learn and master my craft and like reach out to collegiate athletes at my school and train them on the weekends and work these internships. And so like, I think when you're making transitions to like social circles and stuff like that, there's always a period of loneliness until you figure it out, right? And so like, if you don't have anybody, like listen to people that you can aspire to be like. And so that's what I've done is like, I just like lock in. Like when I transitioned into door to door, like that was a lonely period. I had people that I was friends with within the organization, but I didn't have brothers. I didn't have a community. And it's because I needed to level up and I needed to gain skills. And so who was my mentor? Who did I listen to? I listened to a lot of Alex Hormozi, I listened to a lot of Jeremy Minor. And so, yeah, I mean, I'd say doing those things, then you level up. And then through leveling up, like, I mean, a lot of it's money. Like, I went to Collective, right? And so I worked at Collective, then went to Collective. But regardless, like that put me around particular people, meeting Nico, meeting other friends that are business owners or doing really amazing things. And so like my introduction to Harrison was through a friend I had at Collective, the gym. And then, yeah, from there I met Harrison and then met all these other guys. And same thing. It's like, Griffin, me and you met through Griffin, met Griffin through Collective. And so, yeah, I think it's just like number one, leveling up yourself, right? And so that wouldn't have happened had I not bet on myself, moved to Austin. But number two is like, like just putting yourself in rooms of people that you want to be like. And then naturally conversations will be had, connections will be made. And then, year 2, 3, 5 years later, you may have a network that you enjoy. And so, yeah, but I think it's always just like,
yeah. So what I'm hearing is like buy a membership at the bougie gym and show up.
Yeah.
And talk to people.
Yeah.
Like
Alex Hormozi, speaking of, recently posted this thing. He got pitched in the elevator by this guy for his company in the building that he lived in. And after hearing about the guy's numbers in the elevator, Alex was like, wait, bro, how are you affording to like live in this building? And then the dude's response was like, how do I afford not to? Because I have conversations like this every day, right? So the same thing, $400 gym membership. Well, if it's just a gym that's empty, yeah, there's no inherent value. But like when you're working alongside multimillionaires, billionaires in a casual environment and a dude that's worth 9 figures asks you to spot him and then y'all grab coffee after, like it's different. And so, yeah, that's what I'd say.
I mean, it's not like you're going to pay $400, go to the gym and strike a business deal while you're spotting the 9-figure entrepreneur. But it's like the little thing that maybe bro puts too much on the bench press. It's like, yo, help me out. It's like, you want to grab some coffee after? And then you have a conversation that opens up your eyes to like so many things that you just would not, like, you're not going to get that at Planet Fitness. Maybe you could, I don't know.
You're not
yeah, not from the 9-figure dude, but yeah, bro. I mean, it's just at a certain point, like you need to work on yourself to be someone of value to at least get in these rooms, to have these conversations. Maybe not at the gym. Maybe if you're just ripped, like you can make it happen. But you need to be like at a point where you can actually like receive this information. It actually means something to you. Because like there is that thing out there where people say like, oh, if you go to like the very top of the top and start paying this guy for advice, like it may not resonate with where you're at and you might not get as much. Like you should go to someone who's like a step or two ahead.
Yeah. And I agree with that.
But yeah, very interesting. So you guys have been in the compound how long now?
It's coming on, I want to say between 4 to 5 months. Yeah.
If you just, I know it's not that much time, but like look back to 6 months ago compared to today, there's a lot different for everybody, I'm sure. But like, what are some of your biggest takeaways when it comes to like getting a young group of like ambitious entrepreneurial guys in one house and like what can happen in that time?
I mean, yeah, I've worked in the trenches by myself for a very long time. And so I think number one, it just inspires you and excites you. And number two, it's like brotherhood. Like these guys are my brothers. And so like they will tell me shit that other people are unwilling to say, right? And we'll hold each other to a higher standard and hold each other accountable in all aspects of life. It's not just business. And like other reflection is like I was telling you this earlier, but like the house, we live in a 5,000 square foot house, right? 7 bedrooms, 3 kitchens. And like these things were all glamorized. Like I've always wanted the supercar. Everybody wants a supercar. Everybody wants the mansion. Like we're 5 minutes from downtown, right? But like I came home after visiting family and had the house alone for like 2.5 days. And I was miserable. I was depressed, bro. Like it sucks. Like ultimately it's just like a roof over your head. You have a bed. You're in a, like I've like roommate had an R8, right? Had driven Lamborghinis. Like it's just wheel and pedal and roof. Like it doesn't matter. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that it puts a perspective on like, it truly is like, who do you have around you? And so, yeah, I mean, I think that just having a great group of friends is super important. And like, you don't have to live with a bunch of guys to have that, but just the frequency of seeing them, you know, every morning and night. Typically during the day, we're all locked in on business anyways, but like just seeing them and, you know, having brothers who think like you and have similar values is just, it's honestly, I think it's rare. And so yeah, I'm super appreciative of it.
Yeah, I wish I would have got to do something like that. I mean, I'm a little too like deep in. I can't just getting engaged and stuff. Like I can't like move in with, you know, fiance, dog, all that stuff.
I mean, the story that you tell yourself is true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you maybe could. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I'm also like almost 27. Not to say like I'm too old for it, but like, bro, if I was like 21, 22, if I was like in that state of mind, I wasn't even thinking about this at 21, 22.
Yeah.
But like, bro, I would jump at any opportunity. There's a group of guys here in Austin. A lot of them are in the high ticket space. Like, you know, like Cam and
Noah
and Tony. Some of those guys.
Tony, I thought Tony didn't move yet.
He's about to.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're all talking about down the road getting like a cool spot like this. And so I would just say, bro, if you're young and you can do it, do it. Yeah. Like you might not always have the best experience. I don't know all the inside scoop on this. Like some people, they get into these situations, they're like, oh, dude, this person's dirty as hell. Or like,
it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I say that because I had 2 roommates in college. Only time I had roommates.
Yeah.
And I hated it, bro. So I've lived alone since outside of when I had my girlfriend. And yeah, so I think if you find the right men, not boys, then because like, yeah, we have a house cleaner that comes every week and like we clean our shit. We don't leave our dishes out. Like, you know.
For sure. And I get that like vibe from all of you guys. Like I've gotten to meet everyone that lives here, and I know like some of the guys closer than others, but like there's no one in here who I think is like a what's like the right word, like someone that you have to look after. You know, like everyone kind of like does what they needed. Maybe you're the guy.
I'm the right person.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, so yeah, if you're a young person, like go do that if you can, even if it's just like with one other person, make it 6. And like, I mean, you're probably, fast forward, I don't know how long you guys plan to do it, but like you're probably going to walk away and look back at this time and just be like, bro, those were the days, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny too. Because I have people from my hometown, like, you know, younger guys I know, like my friends' little brothers and stuff like that. And they'll ask me like, hey, like, what do I do? What do I do? And I tell them just move. Just like get out of Louisiana. Step 1. Okay. Step 1, just get as far as Louisiana as possible and go to a city of like-minded people. I was like, go to Tampa, go to Miami, go to Austin, like go to Dallas, like go to these cities where there is growth and like people are on, because like just being in a different environment will change your perspective. And like, it's also like a reset. And so all the stories that your family tells about you or the stories that your friends tell about you that isn't serving you or isn't where you want to be, you cut those out and then you write the new story.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And like also like on the sales specifics, like, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but like transparently, we both started door to door, right? And so a lot of guys just want to hop into sales and sit on the computer and just crush Zoom calls, right? But you have to have the skill to be able to do that and make a lot of money and land a role at a great company where you can pull, 20, 30, 40, 50 a month. And that doesn't happen until you get good. And you don't get good until you fail a bunch of times. And so I think like in the opportunities where you can fail very quickly, like gym sales or like door to door, like I've been telling, I mean, just from my own experience, I tell people, dude, like do 2 years of door to door, get around young, hungry savages, like have more sales interactions than like literally anybody could ever possibly achieve outside of door to door, in that time frame, and then go transition to something else. Because like the amount of, if you consider like sales conversations you'll have as a high ticket closer versus the amount of sales conversations you'll have go and knock doors or cold calling or whatever it may be, it's like drastically different. And so as will be the learning curve,
Yeah. I was thinking about that, like, as you're talking, it's like, think back to like every person that that's done 2 years of door to door. Like, how many of those people are doing better than the average person now? Like, not many of those people like just turn into bums after 2 years of door to door.
None of them.
Yeah.
Anybody who's done it for a prolonged period of time and done it well wins in pretty much everything else. Because it's like it forces you to learn the traits and thought patterns that serve you, right? Because if I always say this, my favorite sales was not, when I sold 5 alarms in a day, 8 alarms in a day, like made X amount of money. It was when I ate shit from dusk, from the morning I started knocking and nobody answered, got told to F off, got a gun pulled on me, whatever, all the way down, failed credit, like all the way down to the end of the day, bro, where the sun's going down. It's about to be pitch black. And I get in the house and I sell. There was this one time that happened. My iPad died from pitching. Cause like in general, when I'm in the house, I'll plug it up so I'll recharge.
Yeah.
iPad died. And so I was like, it was literally dark. And I'm like, you know what? I'm knocking it. I started pitching them, got them to bring a charger outside, charged my iPad, pitched them, sold it. And so like those are the best, is like, and it teaches you, it's not the output that matters, it's the input. Because if you continue to do the inputs and don't say, oh, like this neighborhood sucks, I suck, whatever, I need a break, I need to go sit down and bum on the curb. Like, no, like put in the inputs, you'll get the output. And so, yeah.
When it comes to like finding yourselves in high earning sales roles, whether it's in person or remote, if you look at what it takes to get hired on a scale from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, like a percentage wise, like what percent of you getting a yes is like the skill and the resume that you have, and what like, I guess in your mind, how is that broken up? Like, 1, we can look at your skill, your resume. 2, we can look at the timing or the opportunity. 3, you can look at like network. Or there's so many different things that go into a yes, especially in a heavily sought after role. Like, how is that kind of made up in your mind, like percentage wise?
You're asking as far as hiring or getting hired, like a hire?
Yeah, like okay, if I'm a naive person that wants to get a 20K per month closing role, and I say, Naven, like, based on all the things that I could be doing, like, how should I be allocating my effort and attention on certain things to get the highest likelihood of being hired here?
I'd say have the most amount of conviction, and conviction comes from knowing beyond a doubt and having undeniable proof that you do what you say you do. And so like if somebody say, okay, like I want a 20K a month role, I'd ask them, okay, tell me like what about you like is worth 20K a month, and explain it to me. And if they sit there dumbfounded, they're probably not worth it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I think I've had to break it down like trait wise. I think it like conviction, but what does conviction come from? Having the skills, right? Actually having the skills. And so in everything I've gotten, like I haven't had a track record. Like I was managing on the offer 3 months on, and had no high ticket experience. Right. And like I came on as a closer with no high ticket experience, but it's just like, I know what I'm good at. And so I could come on to the interview and be like, yeah, no, I mean, I haven't closed high ticket, but I've started my own agency. I've had X amount of calls, and you've seen, here's some of my call recordings from my own agency. Or if you haven't, I've trained, recruited, hired and managed over 25 salespeople. I've generated X amount of revenue. I've closed myself X amount of commission. I've trained X amount of people to earn this much. Like, it's conviction, but you don't have that until you're good. And so if you're not good, go do something, eat shit, and get good.
Yeah.
Is what I'd say.
It doesn't seem, some people, I think they come into sales, maybe from other backgrounds, and they do think it is super black and white. Some people just think like life is black and white. It's binary.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yeah.
But if I were
to think that way,
if I were to come and say, you know, I've done, let's assume I have a sales background, and I have the best resume ever, and I submit it time and time again, and I get denied. Like, what other things could I be missing? You know, maybe conviction is one.
Yeah.
But like, you know, on paper, maybe I'm the best candidate, but I keep getting denied. Like, what other things would you use to like get in a position to receive yeses?
Okay. So I think number one, your ability as a salesperson or to do great business in general is, it comes down to two things. It's like, what's your measure of warmth and what's your measure of competence? So like, how competent are you, and how good are you at like emotional intelligence and how you make people feel when you speak to them, right? And so like, and those are both like trainable things. The other thing is like persistence. And so I'd rather be overly persistent than passive, right? And so anything like, just like, for example, when I wanted a job at Collective, this before I knew anything about sales, they didn't have like a phone number. They didn't have, all they had was an email, like an info email when they first launched. And so I just would email the info email, and then they sent out a thing saying, hey, we're going to do gym tours. And so I'm in Hammond, Louisiana, like a small college town, you know, making like $30K a year. And I'm like, hey, can I get like a online tour over Zoom? And she's like, yeah. And so get the online tour. They told me, and I'm like, hey, like, I'm looking for this. Like, can this happen? She's like, oh, I don't know. Like, we're not open yet, whatever. And so then like, I'm waiting. They post every coach, right? What do? I find every coach's LinkedIn, every coach's Instagram, cold outbound, find the owner's LinkedIn, cold outbound. And then like, yeah, eventually a coach responded to me and left me on red multiple times, kept following up, kept being persistent, got him on a phone call, like closed them on the phone call. Like, hey, I don't have much, but I'm persistent. I'm a man of faith. And I work harder than anybody else you'll ever meet. Give me a rung on the ladder. I'll work for free. I'll do everything you tell me to do, and it'll be the best decision you ever make. He got me a position at Collective. And so, yeah, I think that's with any role. It's like, it's persistence and it's your ability to sound competent and have warmth. And so like, that's, you know, I think that if I had to break it down, that's what it would be.
Okay. So even going back to the wrestling days when you were just doing whatever it takes to get where you wanted to be, like, how do you think you learned that, the ability to just, you know, push through, go through the hard times, shoot for what you want? Like when it comes to the LinkedIn outreach, when it comes to the serving job, like you worked in the kitchen to work back up to the front of house, wrestling, even the stuff you're doing today, like how did you learn that?
If I didn't take those actions, I wouldn't get the result I want. So like, for example, wrestling, right? I weighed 95 pounds end of sophomore year in high school. Like, you know, like outrageously light, outrageously skinny, no muscle mass. And I knew I'd be wrestling people that were cutting down to 106 that had 20 pounds on me in muscle. And so like, logistically, I could say, oh, like, I'm just built like this. Is my Asian genetics? I'm 5'5", whatever. Or I could say like, no, like, let me just destroy some weights and get as swole as I possibly can, right? Same thing with skills. Like, I can go against like the other newbie guys and like feel good about myself beating somebody who sucks. Or I can just eat shit over and over and over by the best guy until I can keep up with him. And so I think it's like, yeah, it's like rate of learning, which in learning, there's pain. And so how much pain am I willing to tolerate to acquire the things that I want? All of it, right? And so I will, like in the gym, right? To gain muscle, you have to train close to failure, so intensity, and you have to do it over a long period of time consistently, which is volume and intensity. Those two things over a prolonged period of time cause growth, right? And so that's with anything. Same thing with any skill set, right? With wrestling, I was challenged wrestling at a high intensity with somebody who was better than me, and I did it consistently over and over and over and over again. And so I think that when those those literally translate to literally anything else, sales, entrepreneurship, networking, finding mentors, what intensity are you working at, and how often are you showing up?
In all those opportunities where you found yourself like getting the outcome that you wanted, whether it was the job or the opportunity or whatever, like what are some of the biggest things? And I kind of want to like lump this into just like you pursuing like self-development, because getting like putting the weight on and the things that you need to learn to like put on muscle mass to compete with a higher level person or just a bigger person, like you're definitely taking things from that experience and implementing it to like when I want this position in this company. But like through all of this like umbrella self-development, like what are some of like the 2-3 biggest takeaways where maybe someone listening is just like, dude, like I know I have potential and I don't know how to unlock it. And, I see these guys crushing it. Like if they were like had 5 minutes with you to ask you, what would you tell them like the biggest 2 or 3 things they could do?
I'll start with number 1. The thing that you want, the vision that you have is 100 times harder and will take 100 times longer than you think it will. And so I think the number 1 thing is like resetting your standard for what's hard. Reset your standard for what is effort. Resetting your standard for what does working look like and how long do I actually have to work and put hours in to get the result I want. I think that's a major thing with people that have these big dreams. It's like everybody wants to make boatloads of money. Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants to retire their parents, right? But the difference between the people that actually do it and the people that don't are the people that put in the action for long enough and hard enough to get there. And so when you accept that as truth, then you can detach yourself from the outcome and focus on the inputs, right? And so in sales and door-to-door, even in high-ticket sales, I tell the guys all the time that I work with, like, focus on the inputs, right? Focus on how many doors are you knocking? How many pitches are you doing? How often are you studying your pitch? How often are you listening to your recordings, right? How are you showing up in the gym, right? And same thing. It's like how many times are you working close to failure? How often are you going to the gym? And are you like showing up and putting full effort there? And so it's like, if you just focus on the inputs, you will get better. If you work a muscle to failure consistently, it will grow. And so with any skill set, if you repeatedly do it over and over, then you will get better. You'll learn the lessons needed to be had, and then you'll acquire the thing. And so that could take, 5 years, could take 5 decades, right? But if you're obsessive about the inputs, you get the output. Actually, I'll tie this in with a Bible verse. It's a proverb, and it goes, it's like, mere talk brings poverty, but all hard work brings a profit. And so on the front end of the verse, it just sounds like, like talking does nothing, work does, which is true. But in the latter end of the verse, all hard work brings a profit. All hard work brings a profit. And so even if your work isn't getting you the outcome that you want, it's working on you. The work works on you more than you work on it. So every time that you fail, every time that you get shit on, every time that you lose all your money and have to restart, like you're learning lessons that other people would have bowed out already or not even had the willingness to take and learn, so that you become better, so that you can actually become the person that is deserving of the outcomes that you want. And so I think that if I had to tie it into one point, like that's the main thing. The other thing is like change the people that you're around and level up. And so if you're not satisfied with your life right now, then you betting on yourself, whether that's money, whether that's relocating, whether that's doing something that literally everybody around you, your family, your friends, anybody in your circle tells you is a bad idea, do it. Move. Take the risk. Take out the credit card. Because like for me, it was like, oh, I have $1,500 in my bank account. So what if my net worth goes down $2,500? Like, who cares, bro? I have $1,500 in my bank account. Like, what do you have to lose, right? Because if you're not living the life you want, you're not going to be able to provide your family with the lives that you feel like they deserve. Then, like, every day that you accept your current reality, there's again, guaranteed chance that nothing changes. Whereas if you go out and do something, even if the percentage is small, it's still there. And so, like, what do you have to lose? That's what I'd say.
Yeah. If I'm looking at all my friends who are like relatively young and successful, the concept of just like focusing on the inputs and not the outcome, like most of them I feel like understand that and like actively practice that on
Yeah.
the daily. It's like if you, even if you just think of like we said the president analogy earlier, it's like two people, one thinks they can be it, one thinks they can't. But like, you know, let's say you want to be successful in like e-commerce. I don't know. It's like, okay, we know that it is possible. That's not rocket science either.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, through trial and error, try things until I get to the point of success. And like, it's just about, you know, I think, well, what you said about, however hard you think it's going to be 100 times harder. It's going to take 100 times longer. Yeah. Not saying like everything, like some people, I don't like to like solely say like, oh, this person got lucky and that's why they have this. But sometimes they're like, some people do have an easier time or a faster time to get the result. But just understand like, bro, if you could just do whatever it takes, whether it is 5 years or 10 years or 5 months, like you just have to not quit basically. Yes. And that's like through doing what I've been doing. There's been a lot of like shiny objects and like ways to pivot into one thing or the next. And, you know, not to say you shouldn't do that, but like momentum is a serious thing, man. Like it's very serious.
Yeah. 100%.
So
momentum.
Yeah. Momentum is huge. Cause then if you do get to the point of making like a strategic decision to change paths, like for you, for example, like you're taking the momentum that you had from this sales management gig into the one that you were like basically operating and doing sales management. And then you're just like rolling this into like bigger and bigger opportunities, all while stacking experience.
Yeah. It's funny too. I think you asked me 2 or 3. So I think you tied in the perfect third one, which is like, you can't lose if you don't quit. Like you can't. These are beliefs that I think you should believe about the world. So number one, the thing that you want is going to take 100 times longer and be 100 times harder than you think it will. And so you have to focus just on the inputs, not on the outputs. Because if you continue to put in the inputs, you will eventually get the outcome because you become the person deserving of it. Number 2 is like, you have to tolerate risk. And the reason why is because if you want an extraordinary life, that means inherently that you are extraordinary. You are not ordinary. And so when you're looking at a decision and you're asking people whose lives that you probably don't want to live, advice for a particular decision or move, like you're going to get resistance. And so like you can't listen to people whose lives you don't want to live, right? And so, yeah, like take risk, because if you're not happy with the life that you have currently, then like there's a 0% chance that if you change nothing changes, like you won't get the life you want. And so even if you go out and take a risk and spend the money or make the move, like there's a chance that it will. And so take it, because the people that take it are the ones that get it. And then the third one, which Dylan mentioned, which is perfect, is like, you can't lose if you don't quit. And so like, if you literally just continue to put in the inputs for a long enough time, you will get the result because you will get better. Because inherently, that's how things work. If you go to the gym and you work out a muscle close to failure and you do it consistently, it will inherently grow. And that is the same thing with any skill set and any knowledge that can be attained. Is like, if you go after it, it'll be attained and you'll get it. And so, yeah, I think it's simple. I don't think it's easy, but I do think it's simple.
One like idea that I've held like over the last couple of years that I felt has really like served me and helped me stay focused and just like double down on what I am doing is like the idea that you only need to get rich once.
Yep.
And you know, you could look at it financially, but you only need to like make it once. Yep. And then at that point it becomes management and network and connections. And I mean, just like, yeah, like you only need to hit it big once, bro. Like, so
yeah, you learn. Like the beauty is that, and that's why I'm big on like investing in self and taking risk, is your most valuable asset is you. Because like your car can get taken, your house can get taken, your bank account can get taken, your business can be taken, like that, they will take it, right? But the only thing they can't take away is your skill sets and your knowledge and, you know, your know-how. And so, yeah, I think that's the beauty too.
I want to talk about this, getting more into like sales strategy, because I think you have a lot of interesting perspective to share with people. So I got connected to someone that was looking to hire a closer. It's funny enough, like I had been following the guy for 5 years organically. So I knew like, okay, I know who this is. I know what he's about. He's legit.
Yeah.
And I think the role, they're like, yeah, I mean, our closers make 30 to 50K a month or something like that.
Yep.
And so I get a job post and I post it out to my group and like direct network. And I mean, through me, I would say there was probably like 250 people that had the access to the application link. Like, I know not 250 applications went in, but there's definitely a lot of competition
for a 30 to 50K role. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's like for a legit 30 to 50. There's a lot of people that can make numbers up, but whatever. And I had an interaction with you. It's basically like, if I can get an interview, like I'll land the job. and like I knew like I had already talked to other people. I was like, yeah, like I want all the boys to win. So I'm like, you know, here's the link, go apply. Yeah. Here's all the details that I have. And then you come back, you're like, yeah, bro, I got the job. What do you probably don't know, or maybe they told you, but like, bro, there's people in there that were doing like big numbers that also applied. How did you land that job over other people that are also very competitive?
Combination of warmth and competence. Didn't have to be persistent with this one, luckily. But yeah, no, you sent me his Instagram, and so I do not. It's a trading offer. Never traded anything in my entire life, right? And the prompt was like, explain why trading is the best opportunity to make money online. And so you know what I did? I was like, how can I learn about this efficiently? What are the value propositions that he wants to hear? And so I went to his VSL and I watched his VSL. And I'm like, okay, cool. Watched one YouTube video, watched the VSL, got a feel for his personality. And then I found his Instagram. I messaged them, hey, would like to apply for your role. Text me when you see this. Text me. As soon as he texts me back, boom.
Yeah.
Shout out. So I was in here actually working, got my phone out and just cold fired a 2-minute video. And I was basically like, what's up? My name is Naven. I'm good friends with Dylan over at Serial Sales. He actually sent me over this role. And yeah, I know you, there's two things, like you're looking for X and you also wanted me to explain Y. And so let me hit those really quickly. X, I watched your VSL. I've never traded anything in my life, but I'm assuming this is the things you want to hear. Bop, 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 bop. Here's why trading is the best, whatever. And then Y, here's everything I've done and why when you hire me, I will be the best hiring decision of your entire life. And that was it. I was like, yeah, I'm a savage. I do great at whatever you do. Just give me a rung on the ladder and I'll be your top guy in a couple of months. Boom. And then he responded and mentioned, and I knew he was going to say this, I look young. And so his target demographic, or a lot of his demographic is like middle-aged white men, right? And so I think I sent you a voice memo about this, bro, free-handling objections, right? And so I already knew that was coming. And so I managed a roofing offer where we were selling B2B to roofing owners. So what I told him, that's an objection. Hey, loved everything you said. You're very well spoken. You look a little too young. Completely understand. I'm Asian, so I could be anywhere between like 15 to 45. You probably wouldn't know the difference, right? Makes them laugh. Warmth, right? Boom. Now competence. So then I'm like, yeah, but or not yeah, but I actually managed a roofing marketing agency. We sold B2B to roofing companies. Not only did I sell an offer, but I also hired guys that are younger to sell on that offer. And yeah, like at the end of calls, they would ask me or ask my closers, like, hey, how old are you? I'd make that same joke. And then I'd tell them to guess. And they would typically guess around like mid to late 30s. Why? Because I know how to show up on calls. And so again, I did serving experience door to door. I knew as soon as somebody opened the door, how I was speaking to them, the words I was using, the vocabulary, the tonality, the pace, the pauses. And so, yeah, not a problem. Don't worry about that. I could send you call recordings if you'd like. Not a problem anymore. Right. And so like, I think I was telling you yeah, just like I pre-handle the objections. Like if you are of a certain religion and you have a hat on and the demographic, maybe, because this is a situation I actually faced recently, like maybe opposed, you may be dealing with like racist white old men, like handle the objection. Like, hey, I know I look like this. I know I wear this, but like, this is not a problem for me. And here's why. Right. And like, just handle the objections before they even have to be brought up or asked. And so, yeah. And then from there, he got me on an interview with the COO. I had, a sheet of my close rates and I had call recordings ready. And I said, hey, listen, start off the call, I like to set the frame. So like, hey, obviously I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I have sheets that you can look at as far as my stats. I have call recordings you can pull up if you want to role play on call. Let's run it. I'm here for it. I do have some questions for you at the end though. So, whenever you're ready, let's get it rocking. Right. And then, like that displays conviction, warmth, competence, and warmth was, displayed within the interaction, obviously later on. But yeah. And so I think with the combination of those things, you could land anything you want.
Yeah. I mean, dude, if I'm taking like two things away from that, primarily, it's one, like you have like really developed like situational awareness, like the fact that you're not a trader, the fact that you might be looking younger than their average ICP or whatever. Yeah. So you have the awareness to recognize that, you have the humility to address it. But the one thing that I'm taking away from that entire process that a lot of other applicants probably didn't do is it's simply effort. Like you've talked to me about this before, because I've sent you people for you to hire for other positions that you were in. And like part of the thing that I'd work on a lot in my community is just like how to stand out like amongst the average person. The bar is so low in this industry.
So low. And everywhere. Most business owners suck. Most salespeople suck. Yeah.
So effort, I mean, like your timeliness, your just being thorough with your responses, with your research on the company. Like it would have been so easy for you to be disqualified from that because you're not a trader and because you look young. And most people.
And I closed my first high ticket sale like it hasn't even been a year.
The one thing, or one of the things that he told me in our brief interaction was like, yeah, I want people that are making $30K a month closing right now. And, this is like just a free post in my community to my network. So like, I can't vet every single person that comes through. But bro, it just goes to show you, like in a lot of those offers, especially trading when they're more technical, like they want people that have that industry experience. But bro, if you're a good enough sales guy and you're competent and you can be a good like reflection of the company, like, man, you can really get what you want,
Yeah. So the traits that I want to see in a hire, I need to see prior to it. And so like speed to lead, like how long is it taking you to respond to my texts and messages, right? And like how much warmth am I getting in our interactions, and how much competence do you display, and how much conviction do you have in yourself? Because that will then correlate with how much conviction the prospects get when you're selling my product or my service or whatever. And so, yeah, I think it really just comes down to that.
If you're looking out at your life and what you want out of it over the next like 1, 3, 5 years, like what are you looking out for? Like what are you excited for? What are your big plans like coming up?
One thing I'm super excited about is just like just the growth and the network of like seeing you, like seeing Harrison, seeing other guys in our network just like take off. I think that like we're just only scratching the surface of like what we're getting into, and so it's super excited to see. As far as me personally on my end, as far as like what I'm looking to do, like what opportunities I'm seeing in the future, right now I'm just stacking as many skill sets as possible, learning as much as possible about as many businesses as possible, to kind of like know what path I want to go to. Like start a marketing agency, worked, help scale up marketing agency. Don't want a marketing agency, right? Help a SaaS company scale. I'm not sure I want to do that. And so, yeah, I think like for me, I think the future is in AI and automation. And so automating things, provide, like how can you provide as much value to the business as possible, like lower, their operating expenses, increase the amount of money they make. Huge opportunity in that. Also think like brick and mortar businesses are also huge opportunity vehicles, just because they will never be replaced or automated, at least in our lifetime. And so like, roofing, plumbing, all the services like that. And yeah, I just think those are kind of the future. I also think attention is the new economy. And so if you think about like how much the USD is worth or how much Bitcoin is worth, I think the like per unit of like eyeball, like the value of attention is just exponentially growing. And like, I think the true killers in business will have a killer warm audience and also be killer business owners. And so for me, in the next 5 to 10 years, like that's kind of what I plan on focusing on, is really focused on like building a large, warm, organic audience, and also be a savage business owner and making sure those two just coincide well. Cause like you can't get a lower cost per lead than from a, and cost per acquired customer than from a warm audience. So yeah.
Yeah. Keeping the options open, stacking skills in the meantime, cash flowing a little bit.
Yeah. And those are the business ones. Personal ones. Yeah. I mean, we have B Stud. That's super cool. It's started from 6 people. We have like 50 people in our house every week. And so just like seeing revival spread through Austin and like, spreading Jesus Christ's name, that's pretty cool too. And so that's also transparently what I'm super excited about as well. Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to get into before the camera dies again?
If you're not in serial sales agency, join it. Get in contact with Dylan. It's like the best place to get introduced to, the high ticket space and get around guys doing the same thing. Also, move. Like if you're really bad at it, move to Austin, connect with the other guys out here in Austin. I promise you, your growth will be exponential when you get around other like-minded people. And that's really it. If you want to follow me, it's at Naven Dabria on Instagram. It's pretty much the only thing I use. Naven Dabria. I'll be putting some content out there soon. It'll be sales related, and you may like it. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll link that below. And yeah, if you are moving to Austin, you're in the sales space, let me know because we have a group chat, and there's like 20 people in there, but I have a lot more requests now. It's about to be 30. It's pretty crazy. Like one little city, 30 people in the high ticket sales space.
It's growing city.
So thank you guys for watching, if the camera is still on, and catch you on number 43.
Let's get it, baby.